5
Okay.
or 6 days.
Yeah, I wouldn't raise a kid that would do that.
It's 7 p.m. on Monday, July 21st, 2025, and I will call this regular City Council meeting to order. I do want to thank those who are joining us in the audience this evening, and if Councilmember Cedar would lead us in the flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So to note for the record, all council is present this evening. We also have all staff, so we have Planning Manager Stallnecker, Director Madden, Interim Director Robeck, Chief Hernandez, and City Clerk Tricia Summer. Next on our agenda is citizen participation. This purpose is for the purpose of the public comment period at this meeting is for those wishing to address the council on any matter. It's not intended for debate and discussion with the public. When you come to the podium, please make sure you state your name and city for the record. And then we kindly remind you to limit your comments to 3 minutes. Planning Manager Stallnecker, or Director Madden, can you see if there's anyone signed up on the? Thank you. We have one individual signed up this evening, Susan Johnson. Susan, can you hang on 1 second? Or Ms. Johnson, can you hang on 1 second?
Nassus.
She's going to set the timer.
Usually it works all the time. Internet's been down different places all day. Yeah, I'm lying.
Did you not bring your glasses?
I'm known for that.
Okay, Ms. Johnson, we're ready.
I'm sorry. I'm coming to the council. Susan Johnson, Milton. When I read the minutes for the city of Milton, I would like to ask if we could put who votes no on or abstains on any motion. We did it years and years ago, and I noticed that sometimes it'll say like 4-1. And so to get who that one person who is voting no, you have to go and look at the audio to figure it. It's maybe not all the time, but it's just something I would like to request because as everybody knows, that's something I track. Thank you.
That concludes citizen participation for this evening. Moving on to additions and deletions. Are there any additions or deletions to tonight's agenda? Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda, if I could get a motion to pass.
Make a motion to accept the agenda, or minutes as presented. Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Strader and seconded by Councilmember Peretti to pass the consent agenda as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried 7-0. Council, the next item on our agenda is a presentation from Pierce Transit. Dustin, did you want to introduce, or should I just turn it right over to them?
Please turn it.
Okay. I'll turn it over to the floor to Pierce Transit.
Great, excellent. Thank you so much. My name is Andrew Arnis. I'm the Assistant Manager for Service Planning at Pierce Transit. I'm joined here tonight by Brittany Carbolito, who is a planner on our service planning team. Thank you so much for accepting our request to come and present to you tonight. We're here to talk a little bit about the draft 2 of our Destination 2045 long-range plan. Some of our colleagues were here, I think, within the past 12 months and presented to you on this previously a first draft of this plan. And so our team has been hard at work over the past 3.5 months or so on a second draft, and we just wanted to present some of the updates and the reasons for that and answer any questions, get any feedback you might have as we work towards implementing this later in August with our board. So before we get into some of the details of the plan, just wanted to do a brief recap on some of the community outreach and input that we have received. So we've conducted over the past 12 months facilitated 65 different community outreach events, including 16 city council presentations. We also released a survey that we received over 700 responses to. We like to note that 75% of those that responded were also current transit users and riders on Pierce Transit. So we wanted to provide just a little bit of a summary of the input that we did receive. So wanted to note that most of the response and the feedback that we did receive on the first draft of the plan was just for more service in general, so meaning more frequent trips or to extend the span of our service, particularly later in the day. And so we had a couple comments on bus rapid transit. We'll talk a little bit about that later, but the overwhelming majority of folks are interested in just overall more service on the routes that we have, and a few comments for some additional routes as well. But this is just a highlight to some of the comments that we did receive. I won't go through for sake of time and read all of these, but one that we like to highlight is at the bottom here. It talks about having more frequent service would encourage people to try transit and become regular transit users. And so that's definitely something that we support and want to try to facilitate with what we put into place here. So just a brief highlight on what's new in this second draft. So a lot of the feedback that we did receive from members of the community and different groups, and also our leadership at Pierce Transit, was that they wanted to have our long-range plan to have that be financially sustainable. And so some of the elements of the previous draft that you saw were certainly aspirational, things that couldn't necessarily be put into place with the current financing that we have. And so we were tasked with kind of coming down to reality with what we were going to implement, or what we plan to implement. And so that's what we've done here. And so I'll get into some of the details of that. So with our existing funding, we are able to go up to 482 service hours. And I know that service hours probably doesn't mean a lot to anybody outside of the planning room at Pierce Transit. And so that's just simply the number. A service hour is the amount of time that a bus is on the road providing service. And so this is an annualized number, or the total number of service hours for all of our buses at Pierce Transit in a year. So that's what we're referring to when we say that. But with our current funding, that's the level that we could go up to. We are currently operating approximately just over 470,000 service hours. So not a lot of room to grow there with our current funding. So with these growth scenarios that are going to be detailed in the second draft and are currently posted on our online for public comment, is that we've just really tried to streamline those, simplify those into things that are realistic and achievable. One of the main elements that was removed was the bus rapid transit. There were 3 different bus rapid transit lines that were proposed in the previous plan, and they're quite expensive. So the capital expense required to do that is in the ballpark of like $50 to $100 million a piece. And so with that kind of requirement, it really limited the number of service hours that we could provide. So overall, that's something that was removed so that we could maximize the service level overall throughout the system. And BRT, that's something that we get asked a lot about as well. That's just simply like a high frequency, high capacity level of service that has some additional infrastructure elements, potentially things like dedicated transit lanes and like off-board payments, things like that. So this second draft of the plan, we really have 2 primary focuses, and that's to strengthen connections and enhance access. And so one of the goals that we had here and that we wanted to make note of here is to connect to our routes to the major regional projects. So specifically the Tacoma Dome Link Extension project that's currently going on. So wanted to make sure that that was implemented into the plan. Wanted to make sure that our busiest routes, or those core routes, receive the highest number of frequency. We're going to run those at every 15 minutes. And we also want to extend that service. So again, a lot of the comments that we received were about extending that service later into the day. And so a lot of our routes end at 7 or 8 o'clock. And so our goal is to increase that average to later in the day to 10 p.m. We also wanted to elevate some of our routes to a high capacity level of service, which is just one level down from that bus rapid transit, which is still getting to that high frequency 15-minute service, but just doesn't have some of those elements or those infrastructure investments that are required for BRT. Including more frequent bus trips here, and then also implementing 4 new routes, providing service to a little over 100,000 people throughout our service area. So before we get into the baseline and the 2 growth scenarios that we have in the second draft, just wanted to provide a little bit of context again on those service hours, because it is important to see where we're going here. So you can see back in 2009, 2010, 2011, we were operating just a little over 600,000 service hours. And then in 2012, there was a Public Transportation Improvement Conference, or a PTIC, and that's where the governing members of that board, some of those areas actually left our service area, and then we had some other service reductions. And so you can see that was really reduced in 2012 to a little over 400,000 service hours. And we've been steadily gaining since that point up until, again, right now, we're at about 470,000 hours. So this is our baseline scenario. So this is at our current tax rate of 0.6%, the sales tax rate. So that's our primary source of funding. The other two is our fares and then also grants, but sales tax is definitely the biggest. So again, in that baseline scenario, we can go up to that 482,000 hours, which is approximately 10,000 hours in addition to what we have. And so this is just details a little bit about what we would do in our baseline scenario with that increase. So we would continue to upgrade routes 1 and 3, which is two of our core routes, and that would upgrade those to 15-minute frequency from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Then we're also going to implement a couple of minor routing adjustments. We're opening the new Spanaway Transit Center, so the Route 1 and the stream route that goes there's a few routing adjustments we have to implement there that will eat up a portion of these service hours. And then we want to extend that new stream community line that was implemented a year ago down to Commerce Street Station, where it currently truncates at TDS. And then just some additional connections here on the 2, the 41, 42, 400, the 402, and the 500. So we want to make sure that those, again, are considering the Tacoma link extensions when those become operational, those locations. So as part of the planning, what we did is we also looked at what was possible if we were to get a sales tax increase. So again, this would require our board to go out and request the voters to approve a ballot measure to increase our current sales tax rate up to 0.9%. And at that rate, that would allow us to go up to an annual service hour level of 600,000. So that would give us about a 24% service hour increase from where we currently are. And so under that scenario, again, sticking with the theme of more frequent and extended service here, we would incorporate everything that's in that baseline scenario. So again, extending stream community line down to Commerce, and then we would implement a streamline on routes 2 and 3 that would operate 15 minutes on weekdays. And we also want to increase the weekday or the weekend frequency for 16 of our routes. And then all of the other routes would operate at 30-minute frequency, where most of them are currently on, well, a good handful of them are on an hour. We also want to increase our operating hours. So again, extending that service to an average of 10 p.m. from where we're currently about 7 or 8 o'clock. And then the stream community line routes, additional routes to what we currently have would be the 2, 3, 4. And then the portion of the one that would become stream would then be a Route 25, and that would run, again, on that 15-minute frequency until 12 a.m. We'd also combined routes 52 and 55, and that would be a new Route 5. And then again, that replacing the Route 1 with the stream community line and integrating those routes together. So another scenario that we looked at is if it were possible for us to go up to 1.1. So there's a bit of a caveat here to this one, and this does require an adjustment to the RCW. So currently, the way the law is written now, there's only 2 other transit agencies that are able to go higher than that 0.9%. And so we are exploring that option if it were to be an option for us to do that just acknowledging that it would require that change to the RCW to allow us to do this, but we did model this as part of the plan if that were to transpire. So at that level, that would allow us to go up to 750,000 hours, and then that would be about a 55% increase overall. So again, everything from scenario A would be incorporated into this scenario, and then we would be able to do some an additional frequency and also span adjustments. I won't go through all of those for sake of time, but we would be able to continue to increase the frequency and also extend service hours on weekends and weekdays as well. So a couple of the routes that I wanted to mention, specific to Milton, obviously, that serve the residents of this community is the 501 and the 402. So under scenario B, it would, again, we would have the increase to 30-minute frequency on Sundays on the 501, and then we'd also extend those operating hours to 10 p.m. On Saturdays and Sundays as well. And then I forgot to mention, but in scenario A on the 501 as well would be increased to a 30-minute frequency on weekdays and Saturdays, where it's currently running at 60 minutes. And then the 412 would also be increased to 30 minutes on weekdays and Saturdays. And again, that one is currently running on 60-minute frequencies. And then the 402 as well would be extended again to that 10 p.m. Average as well. So extending from currently where it's at, I think it's at 9 and 8 o'clock on the weekends, weekdays and Saturday. All right, so with that, next steps, where we're currently at now, is we are out in the community doing a series of presentations to councils and to community outreach. We want to get that feedback as we go for, move towards final adoption in August. So we did have a public comment period at our last board meeting and presented that to our board. And so we got some feedback from them as well that we're going to be working on. And again, on August 11th will be our target to bring this feedback back and incorporate that, any adjustments that we might have that we'll present to the board and request for that adoption at our August 11th board meeting. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions or receive any feedback that you might have.
Council, do you have any questions or comments? Councilmember Whalen?
Thank you very much, and thank you for the presentation. And forgive us, myself, I don't use the bus, but I know it's been very successful, or it appears to be very successful in the city of Milton. But it was requested a few years ago that all the bus stops have shelters, and we don't have all the bus stops with shelters. Is there a particular reason? And that was discussed several years ago.
Years ago, okay.
And is there, I know ridership has a demand, and that's the appropriate way to gauge it. So I don't see changes in more shelters. Does that mean that our ridership is not improving?
That's a good question. So overall, ridership is improving, so that's system-wide. But to answer your question about shelters, we have recently implemented standards for what stops do and don't get shelters. I mean, where we do have limited resources, as you can imagine, familiar with. We have a certain number of bus stops that do have those, and so we have target thresholds that are, you're exactly right. It's ridership based on ridership demand. And so currently, I believe those are, I think it's an average of 8. I think, is that, yeah, so I think average of 8 per day is the minimum threshold for a stop to have a shelter.
So if a stop doesn't generate 8 per day, it doesn't get a shelter?
So there are certain stops that do have that currently. So what we are currently working on a balancing project. Brittany's actually leading that portion of the project, where we're going to be moving some of the shelters. We certainly have shelters that are stops right now that are lower than that, but we are going to be balancing those to stops that currently meet that threshold.
Now I'm going to ask you probably a question you may not be able to answer. What's the ridership improvement for transit since Edgewood and Milton built out along Meridian, and more traffic and more residents and rentals? How has it improved over the last 10 years? Just give me a ballpark. Is it doubled or is it halved?
No, it certainly hasn't reduced. Yeah, no, it's ridership across the board is up. To answer your specific question, though, I would definitely need to look at the routes, and we could certainly be happy to get back with that information.
No, it would be nice to know that the service you're providing, which is a very good service and so forth, is it more used? Is it more access to the public? Is the public using it and supporting you? It would just be nice to know for a conversation.
Absolutely. I know we'd be happy to provide that information for you. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Cedar?
Yeah, just also want to say thanks for being here, and wanted to compliment Pierce Transit on the Kids Ride Free, which I think is a huge success. I see a lot of Milton youth waiting for the bus, and I'd love to see that. As far as the shelter upgrades, I would appreciate if you could push out to someone at our city what capital improvements would occur within the city of Milton, if any. I talked about that back in 2023 and never really got a good answer. I know that's planned to move the improved shelters, even where there's current shelters, to just make them more resilient. Would love that specific information.
Absolutely. We can
Thanks.
do that.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. So is the hope that with the covered the covered stops with the shelters, that people will just end up going to those stops as opposed to the ones that don't, and they're willing to walk that distance to get to that covered bus stop? Is that kind of what?
So the goal of it, of the balancing project specifically, and having a standard, is to maximize the utilization of those. So I think we have about, it's a little over 500 shelters, I think it is, and like 1,800 bus stops, right? So, and we also have a facilities crew that is limited in their ability to go out and to service a certain number of shelters. As you can imagine, stops that have those shelters require more maintenance than that. And so, no, it's not necessarily our goal to make people walk further, but it's to put them at where we know people are utilizing the stop the most. So that's how we have to balance that utilization for sure.
Okay.
Councilmember Hall?
I was in Florida and I saw the dedicated transit lines working very, very well. Is that something that you're working on now, or do you need funding for that? And then where would they go?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, and that's definitely certainly something we'd be looking at. It would require grant funding and, multiple partnerships with different jurisdictions. But right now, we don't have anything specific or any projects that are currently in the works, but certainly something, those speed and reliability improvements, those dedicated lanes are definitely one of those levers that you can pull on to, improve that service. And so we definitely would want to explore that as resources allow, for sure.
And one more question. How will the 167 extension affect the bus routes? Is it something that's going to go over the freeway? The bus will take you to Puyallup? Will that be a new line? How will that work?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure about the impact. Yeah, I'm not sure about the impacts at this point. I don't know. We can get back to you on that for sure.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yeah.
So we do have a bus stop that is at the base of Milton Way, right off of Yuma. And it's one that we've talked about as a administration about if maybe taking measures into our own hands, because it's right by the apartments there. And a lot of times the riders are hanging out on the utility box because there's nowhere to sit or, be covered. So if I could just put in a little request, I know you take your data and I respect that, but if that could be an area you could look at for possibly, even if you move one of our non-used ones to that location, because it's kind of impeding on utility structure and then property.
Yeah, no, we'd be happy to follow up with
Perfect.
that for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Councilmember Strader?
In 2011 to 2012, there was a huge drop in ridership. Could you briefly explain what happened with that, and why are we going to increase now? What are your plans? What is bringing back ridership?
Are you talking about the service hour decrease there?
Yes.
So that's actually service hours, not necessarily the ridership. So the ridership, certainly during COVID, that was impacted. But what we're talking about there is that service hours, the amount of service we were able to facilitate or provide to the community. And so again, the reason that was reduced is that the Pierce Transit, the PTBA, that area is governed by a PTIC, which is made up of different elected representatives throughout that service area. And so what that group does is they can convene and they can determine the boundary of our service area. So Pierce Transit doesn't actually do that ourselves. It's that group that does that. So they redrew that service area. It was reduced. So that's one of the reasons is we had fewer communities and jurisdictions that were a part of that service area. So that reduced the service that we were able to provide. And then also we had some service hour reductions in general, I think due to other resource constraints at that point as well.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely.
And thank you for your presentation.
Councilmember Cedar?
Thanks. I was reminded of the runner in either scenario A or scenario B that you talked about. Would there be runner expansion into this end of Pierce County?
That's a good question. It's not something that's projected as part of the plan, but the folks that manage that program and that we certainly will continue to monitor, see what makes sense there for sure.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments from council? All right, well, thank you for your time this evening. We
Oh, excellent.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having
Yeah,
us.
thank you.
Thank
So council, we have 3 regular agenda items this evening. We have 2 discussions and an action. So the first one is found on page 25 of your packet. It is ordinance 2117-25 for the creation of a traffic safety camera fund. I'm going to turn the floor over to Interim Director Robeck, and then we'll open up the floor for discussion.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. An ordinance establishing an automatic traffic safety camera program was adopted in November of '23 and is anticipated that the program will be operational very soon. Jurisdictions with an automated traffic safety camera program in effect after January 1st of 2024, however, have limitations on how program revenues can be used. Per RCW 46.63.220, revenue generated by an automated traffic safety camera program in effect after January 1st, 2024, may only be used for certain program costs and specified traffic safety activities as listed in the agenda bill. Because use of the program's revenues are legally restricted, it is recommended that program revenues and expenditures be accounted for in a special revenue fund. The proposed ordinance establishes a new special revenue fund for the automated traffic safety camera program. Does anyone have any questions, comments?
Councilmember Cedar?
I just had a question about the, I guess the Complete Streets programs. It seems like this, what it can be used for is statutorily defined rather than by the municipality's own Complete Streets definition. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. All right. My follow-up would have been, I think we need to modernize our Complete Streets proclamation or our ordinance, but I suppose for this purpose, it doesn't matter. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. Now, am I correct in remembering that in the end, after fees are paid and such, that those monies can then be used to go toward sidewalks?
Yes,
Correct?
yes, I interpret that Complete Streets means that they can be used for sidewalks. And the definition that's in italics there is from the RCW.
I mean, anything that will help pay for sidewalks is worth it.
Councilmember Whelan?
Thank you very much, and appreciate your comments on that. And I'd like to just ask a question. What else can we use the monies for?
Good question. Obviously, expenses of the program itself, but also traffic safety features, and that's what's in the agenda bill is actually taken from the RCW. So it's really traffic calming activities, traffic calming features, and then the Complete Streets, meaning building sidewalks, possibly bike lanes, things like that. And if we wanted to redo a street and add sidewalks, bike lanes and everything, I interpret this to mean that we could also pay for the paving of the streets if we're installing sidewalks and bike lanes and different traffic safety features in there.
And that's appreciated. And can any of that language be added to the next time we read this? Show where that's possible or what's possible with it. In other words, it's much easier to sell to the public if they know where the fines or whatever goes along with this can improve the city of Milton, as opposed to just being fined and not knowing where the money goes. So I'm not sure what you can structure with that, but that would be nice to add as a comment on at least the agenda item, just that supports the ordinance and where the monies would go would be very, very welcome by the general public.
Thank you. That's great. That's really great input. And I would like to add that this is fairly new, so I'm hoping that this RCW will evolve to better define what cities can use the money for and be a little bit more specific for jurisdictions that had camera programs in effect before January 1st, 2024, they can use the money basically on anything they want to. This only applies to jurisdictions with new camera safety programs. So, like I said, I'm hoping that this language will expand and evolve in the future, moving forward.
And if we keep up with that information about what's allowable and so forth, and discuss it each time something new allowable comes in, it's better to share that with the public so they know what this money's going for and not just going for whatever. So
Specific items.
what is usable for, if we keep updating with it, would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Interim Director Robeck? Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, if you can delineate everything that, you know, the funds can be used. That's helpful. I agree with it. Being able to explain to citizens, because I've had people say, oh, what is that city hurting for money that they, you know, that they need to have a traffic camera program. And in this, then at least then you can go back to them and say, well, you also said that you're concerned with public safety, so this is what it will, you know, this is what it will pay for.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, so this will come back to council at our next regular meeting for adoption. Moving on to our next item this evening, it's on page 29 of the packet. It is a budget amendment in the first read of ordinance 2118-25. And I'll turn the floor back over to Interim Director Robeck.
Thank you again. The proposed ordinance provides adjustments to the 2025 budget as adopted by City Council on December 2nd, 2024. This is the third ordinance amending the 2025 budget and reflects changes that have occurred since adoption of the original budget. These adjustments are detailed in the accompanying Exhibit A 2025 Budget Amendment Number 3 and do include a transfer of the automated traffic safety camera program expenditures and revenues from the general fund to the new special revenue fund, as well as aligning ARPA revenues received with the most recent compliance report that was submitted. Also attached is Exhibit B, carry forward of unexpended 2024 budget for continuing projects. This exhibit details unexpended appropriations for continuing projects, which may be carried forward from the previous year's budget pursuant to RCW. These changes are not required to be approved by ordinance, and they are reflected in the current year's amended budget. Any questions or comments?
All right. Well, this will come back to our next meeting. Council, the last item on our agenda this evening is on page 37 of your packet. It is an action item for a professional services agreement with Gray & Osborne for engineering services on Porterway Sidewalk Improvement Project. Going to turn the floor over to Director Madden, and then following his review, I'll need a motion to open up the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The item before you tonight is an action item. It is a professional service agreement request with Gray & Osborne. Gray & Osborne is our on-call engineering service who went through the competitive procurement process to become an on-call for the City of Milton. In January 2025, City Council authorized the mayor to execute a grant with TIB for sidewalk improvements on the east side of Porter Way from Juniper Street to 7th Avenue. So that is the area along Porter Way between 7th Avenue and our Kent Street parking lot next to West Milton ball fields. That is a missing gap and will connect sidewalks from 5th Avenue to downtown city. It'll also provide direct access on sidewalk surfaces from the 5th Ave area to the interurban trail. And that is part of our long-range plan for eliminating missing gaps. So this service agreement would allow Gray & Osborne to move forward with engineering services. There is some geotechnical work, so it's a little bit higher than normal for engineering services, but that area is impeded with peat bogs, and so there's some additional survey that's required for that area. I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have regarding this contract or the design.
Can I get a motion to open up the floor? Councilmember Cedar?
Move to authorize the mayor to execute the professional services agreement with Gray & Osborne, Inc. for engineering services on the Porterway Sidewalk Improvements TIB project in an amount not to exceed $66,345.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Cedar and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem to authorize the mayor to execute the professional services agreement with Gray & Osborne, Inc. for engineering services on the Porterway Sidewalk Improvements TIB project in an amount not to exceed $66,345. Councilmember Cedar, did you want to speak to your motion?
Just want to say I'm excited to see this moving forward, so thanks for bringing it forward.
Mayor Pro Tem, did you want to speak to your second?
Yeah, thank you. This was all completely off the TIB grant, correct?
TIB typically covers around 84%
Okay.
of the project cost. There's a few costs associated with the geotech that take it a little bit lower, but yes, TIB funds will contribute to over 80% of the project funding.
It works for me. Yeah, and more sidewalks.
Yes,
Let's keep that up.
will do.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hall?
Yes, thank you. That little connection there is going to make a huge difference in safety for everybody involved. I also noticed today that they were working on, was it the poles down there, over there?
Yes, many of the poles will be replaced between our substation and Bridge Point I-5. And so some of those poles in the area of this sidewalk will be replaced as part of that project. And so we'll work with, Canon is working directly with Bridge to replace those poles, and we'll work with them to make sure that they are set back far enough to accommodate our sidewalk.
That was my exact question. I talked to the gentleman, I go, is this for the sidewalk? He didn't seem to know about the sidewalk,
Yeah.
but he did understand what he was, working on the poles, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from council? All right, this is an action item. Are there any comments from the audience? Okay. So it's been moved by Councilmember Cedar and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Whitaker to authorize the mayor to execute the professional services agreement with Gray and Osborne, Inc. for engineering of the Porter Way Sidewalk Improvement TIB project in an amount not to exceed $66,345. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried 7-0. Moving on to council reports. Councilmember Whalen.
Oh, I'm
Sorry, I
I
should take a
just
drink of water. My apologies.
It's easier to talk if I drink water first and so forth. This is just a little bit outside of the question of things that we've discussed for a while. How is our standing as related to Porter Way and the litigation that was ensued? Is there enough information to update? If there isn't, please bring something back when it's appropriate, but it's just kind of out there in limbo.
We may need to do an executive session for that. So we'll schedule something.
Please, it would
Okay.
be nice, it would be nice to know where we stand with that.
Okay.
And I'm going to leave it for the rest of the council
Okay.
to speak.
Perfect. Councilmember Hall?
It's not Milton's issue, but WestDOT still having issues with flooding down there on the trail in Fife. A lot of water was discharged yesterday morning. I witnessed it, so not sure if they need more attention there on Saturdays and Sundays. I do see them working Saturdays and Sundays or just driving through there, but that's happened a couple times now where it's actually flooded the top of the trail. It's concerned that it's going to interfere with, the dirt underneath the asphalt given away, and it has in places already. So,
Understood. The exact location, is it, I guess it would be west of Porter Way,
just over the bridge.
just over the bridge?
So go over the bridge. It's either there or it's a little farther back, but there's some kind of pumps there.
Yep.
They're
They're dewatering,
working on.
yes.
And it looks like it let go again. I think this is probably the third time.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Streeter?
Nothing this evening.
Okay. Councilmember Cedar?
I just want to report back from the Puget Sound Regional Council Transportation Policy Board that there are significant cuts in funding available for state projects. So we'll probably feel the fallout from that in the coming years. But it was pretty dire outlook as they're trying to figure out where to cut, whether it's pre-2040 or post-2040 with what's currently awarded and partially in progress or planned in the short-term future. Yeah. And then in optimistic news from Pierce County Regional Council, if anyone has ever seen or been to Northwest Trek, there are now A-frames that you can rent. This was from the zoo board, which is fascinating. They're right in the middle of the animal enclosure. They're sold out for the most part, but it's pretty sweet, and they're going to keep adding those. So that was exciting.
Councilmember Peretti?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Councilmember White?
Nothing for me.
Mayor Pro Tem?
This is kudos to our Milton Community Park, that we have a park that's like that we can have, Milton Days, for instance, and have a stage in it. Well, I went to the, now they call it the Edgewood Summerfest, and they do it in their new park that's on Meridian. And for an event like that, that's a beautiful park. And, even watching people going by with strollers and nobody on wheelchairs, but if somebody had any wheelchairs, it's a perfect park for that, to be able to get around. And I know that we have the one trail that goes up the hill. But it's, other than that, I'm so glad that we have the park that we do to be able to have an event like Milton Days.
Thank you. Planning Manager Stolnecker? Nothing this week. Okay. Director Madden?
Nothing additional.
I just wanted to note that the State Auditor's Office released our 2023 financial statements and federal single audit report. So that's available on, it was a clean audit, and it's available on the State Auditor's website or on our website if you'd like to check it out.
But you should be proud of yourself and note that we had no findings on either audit. Good job. Chief?
Just a little bit of an update. We did have an officer injured last week during a drug arrest. He had a detachment, we think, from his tricep, so we're waiting for the surgery, find out how long he's going to be out. Spoke with Officer Haney in Texas. He's doing fine. He's very busy. He looks forward to returning sometime in 2025. We did have a successful traffic emphasis last week, and it sounds like somebody might have encountered one of our officers, and the officer was positive about the contact and that they were very happy to find that our council supports the traffic emphasis. So we continue to make it a priority. I encourage all of you to come to National Night Out on August 5th, 5:30 to 7:30. Touch a Truck was great. The AOC, the Administrator of the Courts, is still finishing and reviewing an implementation of the cameras, but we feel that we're still on target for the school year coming up. And if you see something, say something.
Just two things. Want to add that National Night, well, I guess three. Want to add that National Night's at Faith Family Church, as always. So I appreciate their partnership with that. And then I don't know if you noticed the new well painting up at the corner of 15th and Oak. I just want to thank Councilmember Herrera and the Pierce County Council for that, because they fully funded that artwork and everything that went into it. And we'll have some extra funds left over from that to put towards new park signage. So if you see our Representative Herrera and can thank him, the council designated some funds to us for that. And then Milton Days is just around the corner, August 16th from 11 to 7 with a kickoff Friday night. I'll send out an email probably next week to council just with the reminder of where to meet if you want to be in the parade. We're going to use Councilmember Peretti's truck again, so it should be really easy to coordinate that. So with that, is there anything I missed this evening? Councilmember Whalen?
I'm sorry, I wish I had brought it up when I had a chance to speak and so forth. Can you give us a little bit of an outline or schedule or so forth for on 15th, the building? When's it going to disappear? When's it going to be something going on there and so forth?
Could you take care of that tonight?
We will have a,
I got a lot of friends.
No, I'll let Director Madden update you on that.
Yeah, just a bit of an update.
we'll have an update at the next regular council meeting. Thank you.
That's a fair answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have been working on it. I will give kudos to Director Madden that he has been trying to work on it, so.
I know you have and so forth. It was
Yeah.
just, I'm anxious to know more.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else I missed? Okay, seeing that all the items on our agenda have been concluded, I will adjourn our meeting at 7:45